Alright, so this is going to be a crash course video in simplifying radicals, alright? We're not going to get a whole lot into the background of what is a radical. We're not going to get into all that right now. Right now, I basically just want to make a video that you guys can watch, that you can say, okay, at the end of this, I could look at just the square root side. We're not even going to get into cube roots or fourth roots, okay? We're not even going to get into those, alright? Because those are types of radicals, okay? We are just going to talk about, and so I should have just said simplifying square roots. Alright, so we're just going to talk about simplifying square roots and how to do it. Okay, so before we start my examples that I have here, and you see that I wrote square root of 80 twice, it's because we're going to do it in two different ways. Let's just remember how to take the square root. Square root of, let's say, the number 64. Okay, well, I could rewrite 64 as the square root of 8 times 8. Now, you'll remember that square roots simply unsquare something. Okay, so basically, you could argue that 64 is really just 8 squared, right? So it unsquares this. So I think of it like this. Anytime underneath the square root, if you have two of the same numbers being multiplied, one can die and one can go outside the square root. So that would become the 8 times the square root of 0, because there's nothing else in there. Not 0, 1, because all the other two numbers are gone. So we'd be left with 1. So I don't even write anything. I would just write 8. Okay, so you could also think of it as just simply as the square root of 64. 64 can be rewritten as the square root of 8 squared. That dies, so I'm left with just 8. Alright, so you just got to remember that basically the idea that in a square root is you're trying to get two numbers to be multiplying the same number so that one can die and one can go free. And if there's nothing left in there, then you don't need to write a square root sign. Now if there is still stuff left in there, then you have to, well, we'll see. We'll look at that example, okay? So that's like with numbers like square root of 36. Okay, square root of 36. Well, that's just 6, because 36 is 6 squared. So you could write 36, 6 squared, cancels, so you're left with just 6, okay? But what about numbers like 80? Can you take the square root of 80 and get a whole number? Well, let's just let a calculator tell me the answer to that. Second square root of 80. No, you can't. Okay? Now, a lot of students are tempted to say, okay, so then the square root of 80 is 8.944. Well, that's not exact, is it? That's a rounding thing. We don't want to round. We want exact. So how do I simplify square root of 80 to get an exact value of it? Okay? Well, what you can do is you can think about numbers that multiply to be 80. All right? Some of you guys are going to instantly say something like 4 times 20. Awesome. Good answer. All right. What is the square root of 4? 2. So now square root of 4 is 2. So I brought the 2 outside, and now I still have 20 underneath there. But wait, I'm not done. Because can I take 20? Can I take the square root of 20 and get a whole number? No. But can I break 20 down the way I did 80 the first time? Yes. I could say 4 times 5. What's the square root of 4 again? 2. So you bring that other 2 out, and it multiplies with this first 2 that's still out here times the square root of 5. Because the square root of 4 was this 2 that I brought out. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4, so you get 4 square roots of 5. Okay, that's one approach. I personally find this approach to be very long. It is not my favorite way. My favorite approach is to first think more about the numbers that I'm going to put in here. You remember how over here I first did 4 times 20? Well, what if I had first done a number like 16 times 5? Well, what's the square root of 16? 4 times the square root of 5. Can you break 5 down? What other numbers that multiply by 5? 1 and 5. Okay? So I can't go any further. So then this is as far as this goes. Because 5 is a prime number. I can't simplify it any farther. So 4 square roots of 5. You see how I got 4 square roots of 5 on both of them? Okay? So let's do one more random example. Okay? Let's say I gave you something like the square root of 8. Square root of 8 is a really favorite one. Teachers like to put it a lot. Okay? So think about that. Can you take the square root of 8 and get a whole number? No, but you don't want to round, so you don't want to write the decimal. So instead you have to simplify it. Alright? Well, what are two numbers that multiply to be 8? 4 times 2. What is the square root of 4? 2. So you get 2 square roots of 2. Okay? Alright, so we'll do one more just because we do have a few extra moments. I'm just trying to decide on a number, and I have some examples I need to decide. I'm just trying to decide which one I want to do. Let's do the square root of 45. Square root of 45. If you type that in the calculator, you'll notice you cannot get a nice whole number. So instead, you have to ask yourself, what are two numbers that multiply to be 45? Well, 9 times 5. What's the square root of 9? 3. So 3 square roots of 5. Alright? Okay, guys, I hope this video was helpful. Let me know what questions you have.